quick disclaimer before the video. It has been a journey to try and get this video done. There's been so many technological issues, technical difficulties that I've gone through where I've had to re-edit this specific video like 5 times. And I'm not even exaggerating, legitimately 5 times, 3 of which all the footage that I edited was deleted and I had to start over from scratch. It's finally done. I don't know what's going on. I feel like the demon that possessed Peter in The Pope's Exorcist decided to possess my computer and make it not work anymore. But alas, it's done. You're watching it clearly as you're seeing this message. So I just wanted to preface this video by saying I'm sorry it's taken so long. I apologize to Nikki. I never wanted to make anyone wait this long, but it's here. So without further ado, please enjoy the video.
Well, hey there, friendships. Welcome back to Curtis' Corner. If you're new here, hi, I'm Curtis. This is my corner. And on today's special movie Monday, we are going to be sitting down and having another interview video, this time with Nicola Wright. She is playing Daphne Robin in Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, and she's also playing Mary in Bambi the Reckoning. So, if you're interested in seeing this interview take place and hearing all about the ever-expanding, twisted childhood universe, the POOHNIVERSE, if you will, then keep on watching. Before we jump into things, please make sure you like this video if you are interested in movie-related content, along with hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell so you know when I'm posting brand new videos, because if you don't know how else you're gonna know, you won't. That's how, so do it. Also, in the description box below, you can go to my Patreon. There's a link there. For only $1 a month, you get full access to all of my videos early than when they go up on YouTube. You also get the unedited raw footage, and on top of that, you also get creative control over my content. So if any and all of that interests you, click that link, subscribe, join the friend zone, and I will see you there. But for now, let's jump in to this interview with Nicola Wright.
Sorry, the light's really bad. It's very dark here now and I haven't got much lighting.
All good. I can see you just fine.
I'm loving the nod to Stranger Things there in the background.
Thank you. How was your trip?
Oh, it was amazing. A real adventure. Yeah, mate, fantastic. Have you been ever?
No, never. The furthest I've gone is like Florida, so.
Very different. Yeah, I mean, it's a real culture. I mean, I had been before about 7 years ago, but I was down in the south in Kerala, which is very different to the north. Yeah, it was good. Very good.
Good. First and foremost, thank you very, very much for sitting down, having a chat, and talking all things Winnie the Pooh and Bambi and everything within this fun universe that's being created.
Yes, very exciting.
Yes, very much so. I'm like, everything that's been put out so far and just like all the announcements, I'm very much super excited for, and every new announcement that I'm hearing, I'm just like, yes, more. I need more.
I know, I think we all are, to be honest.
So, are you able to tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what made you want to pursue acting?
Well, yes, I am. Obviously, I've only ever acted. So, to be honest, right from childhood, that was the only thing I thought of. My mum had been an actress, so it wasn't the most bizarre thing to mention as a child. I just suppose you think you want to do what your mum's done. And then my dad tried to kind of put me off, but it didn't get put off. And then by 16, I was at drama school, and by 18, I was out working. So it's all I've ever done.
Wow. So just like you know pretty much the ins and outs of everything at this point.
Well, I would never say everything.
That's true. There's always something to learn.
Yeah, exactly. But I've kind of certainly been around the block, yeah.
So what I like to do is I tend to ask just some fun questions to kind of get everyone loosened up, ready to go, before we actually jump into everything that we're going to talk about. So the first one that I have is, what is the most bizarre costume that you have ever had to wear for a role?
Oh, well, I think sadly it has to be I played Bugs Bunny when I was about 19 in an American stage production of Bugs Bunny Meets the Superheroes. And yeah, that was pretty bizarre. They came over from the States. A couple of the Americans came over from the original cast, and then they cast Brits. And so I was wearing a huge, Bugs Bunny head, enormous feet, everything about it was very uncomfortable, very hot, and I had to dance, and we didn't speak. Mel Blanc had actually pre-recorded the voices because obviously we were like almost giant puppets, but yeah, that was pretty bizarre. Best forgotten, really.
I don't think I've ever had the pleasure of talking to anyone who's ever done something like that, so thanks for being my first. So what, out of every horror movie franchise that's out there, do you have a favorite horror film or horror franchise itself?
Ooh, I've got lots of favorite. I mean, The Exorcist will always stay with me purely because I was quite young when I saw it, but it was groundbreaking. It was. And I think even looking back, although probably young people now might look at it and think, meh, it was all practical. The fact that Linda Blair was literally so young is quite harrowing, really, to think about it all. And I always found those real early possession films, I don't find them scary anymore, but as a young person, they really freaked me out. So, and then actually Evil Dead. I can remember when I saw the first that one, I was like, ooh. And again, maybe that was because it was so gross, and that scary woman in the basement, yeah, she really frightened me. Franchises, Halloween was a big one for me because, again, young when I saw it, so you're impressionable, and again, it felt quite groundbreaking at the time. The music, putting that incredible, which was the same with The Exorcist.
Yes.
I think if you've got a good soundtrack to go with it to chill you.
Absolutely.
But then there's been some great, more recent ones as well. So yeah, I do love a horror, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely by far my favorite genre, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, and Suspiria. First Suspiria, which again, perhaps looking back, some people might think meh, but the sound was incredible. And then I didn't want them to make the remake. And then when they did, I was like, whoa, that's really good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the remake one too. I was shocked with how good it was.
Yeah, exactly.
So if your acting career ended up having a theme song, what would it be?
Oh, I don't know. I might have to come back on that one. A theme song. I can't think off the top of my head. Let me see if I can come up with something.
Okay, that's good. We'll revisit.
Yeah, let's have a revisit on that one.
And then my final warm-up question before we dive into everything is there any actor or director, past or present, that you would love to collaborate with?
Oh, well, there's not a Tarantino film that I don't love. So I think as an actor, his dialogue is just incredible, and I love the film. So yeah, I'd love to do that, if you're watching. And I also really love Yorgos Lanthimos'. I'm not saying it right, but yes, I loved Killing of a Sacred Deer, Favourite, Saltburn, Lobster. I loved that quirkiness and his styling. Not Saltburn, sorry, Poor Things. Yeah, so him maybe as a director. Not reaching high at all.
I mean, I would say with the critical acclaim that both of those films have gotten, especially like as of recently, like I haven't heard too much before about The Killing of a Sacred Deer until this like past couple months. For whatever
really?
It just made like a resurgence, and it's just like a lot of people are talking about it. I'm like, I need to jump on this film.
Yeah, it's a great film.
Now that we are all loosened up, let's dive in. So what initially attracted you to this particular script of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2?
Well, before I'd even read the script, because I've worked with Scott and Reese many times over probably the past 5 years, and Scott's one of my very great friends. So he asked me to do it before I'd even seen the script, and I just said yes. So I hadn't actually seen the script when I committed. committed to it.
Okay.
But if Scott asks, then I'm like, yep, okay. And especially because we talked in the past about coming up with a project, or hoping that a project would be around that where I could be his mum, because we have got such good friendship. And so when this actually came about, that yes, he was going to play Christopher Robin, it was a bit of a no-brainer, really.
Yeah, I think he actually posted, I don't know if it was on his story or if it was an actual post on Instagram, but I remember him actually just recently posting about how close you two are and wanting to do that role and have you play that motherly figure for him. So the dynamic definitely was there on the screen, and you could really tell that like the care in between the two of you was really shown across on the film. So
good. Yeah.
Good job.
No.
So how did you approach working on a project with such a controversial subject matter of that, turning a classic children's character into horror icons?
Well, I suppose because obviously I was very aware of the first one, as we all were, because, as I said, we're such a tight friendship group. We'd followed the success of that one. And then I guess there was a surprise at first that how huge that first one had become, because nobody expected it. And then when the talk of the second one came with sort of, not a promise, but a sort of expectation that the story would be looked at more in depth, I was excited about that. I think I've gone off on what your question was.
No, I think that works, because I feel like a lot of people were hesitant with this universe and just immediately put off with the fact that, it's children cartoon characters being turned into these horror villains. But when you have a story, you have a lore, you have something that can like flesh out the reason why it's happening, I think it ends up working in the long run.
Yeah, and I think I was very much sort of like backing them in the fact that nobody had, I get sort of a bit fed up when people critically say, oh, why can't you come up with something original? And thinking, well, actually that was original. Nobody had ever used the children's stories in that way, those particular ones. So yeah, it is different, and you either love it or you don't. But I think I applaud anyone for coming up with something different and getting an indie film off the ground and, making it look as good as they did for the budget that they had.
Yes, absolutely. Like, I think the only other cartoon characters that got a horror retelling would be Snow White, and that was, I think it was Snow White, A Tale of Terror, and that was with Sigourney Weaver playing the evil stepmother. And then they also had Brightburn, which was if Superman came and was actually evil as a kid.
Yeah, so, no, I did see Bright, yeah. But also Scott and Reese Scott in particular had played around with nursery rhymes. I did one called The Curse of Humpty Dumpty. He did Three Blind Mice and Jack and Jill. So the beginnings of that sort of childhoody, as I said, nursery rhymes at that point were the beginning. Yes. And then it was Reese who saw that obviously it was out in the public domain and nabbed Winnie the Pooh. But nobody knew at that time that Winnie the Pooh would be so successful, given that they had done some. Yeah, it just went crazy.
Yeah, it took off real quick. And it's for the better, I think.
Yeah, I certainly think, because of the success of the first one, it's allowed the whole thing to grow and have a bigger budget. It's still not a big budget, but they've made it look like it's a big budget.
Absolutely. 100%. So, touching on your relationship with Scott, how was it getting to portray the mother of Christopher Robin?
It was actually very easy because, as we've talked about, we have got that sort of, we've got a friendship that's a friendship, but also I feel like I'm quite maternal to him. I kind of, have that side of me as well. So you're just kind of extending it. He's the same age as my own son, Scott. So I feel very natural around that age of, being a mum. And Daphne's, obviously there's a trauma between her and her husband, but the whole family have been through, which if you haven't seen the film yet, I won't give too much more away.
I've seen it. Feel free to speak.
Well, as you know, they've had quite a trauma in the family, so I was mindful of that. And certainly there's a scene where there's a bit of exposition about what's happened in the past and how I feel that, you know, maybe Ashdown let Scott and some of them and the children down. That is quite moving, and we improvised a bit which never makes it into the main film. I don't know whether it'll be in the DVD, but which did show even more of that very at ease mother-son, slightly playful. Yeah, it was a really nice scene to do, but it wasn't telling any more of the story, so it had to be cut back a bit. But it's very easy working. He's such a good actor, and when you have got such good friendship, it's just a shorthand. You just feel at ease with each other anyway. And I know Reese really well, so again, it's not like when you walk onto set on a film where you don't know anyone and there's a bit of nerves of, you know, it's all new. That's like putting on a comfortable pair of slippers working with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally understand exactly where you were coming from. So with that, were you able to actually give any input or creative suggestions on how your character would kind of act or speak in a certain scene that would maybe deviate slightly from the script?
Only in the improv bit, which, as I said, never made it. Everything that you see on screen had been written. There is stuff that we did that hadn't been, but it just wasn't pushing the story along. It's more just for our own indulgence. And at the end of the day, with a film that's got a tight 90 minutes, you can't have too much of us just bonding. Sadly, it's a horror film at the end of the day. It's not a kitchen sink drama.
So you've mentioned that you have worked with Scott and Reese on a few other projects, some of which being The Spider from the Attic, Curse of Humpty Dumpty, as you said, and then The Bad Nun, Deadly Vows.
Yes.
How was it being able to see Scott kind of create these visions and put them out for everybody?
It's amazing. I mean, he's got a mind that works like so super fast. It's not the same brain as any of the rest of us, I don't think. He's thinking all the time. He does have so many ideas, as does Reese, but Scott's been doing it for longer, and I've known him for longer, but Reese is just a hive of ideas as well. And they just make it happen, which is incredible, as I said, on certainly some of the budgets that they've had. So if he says he's going to do something, well, he manages to make it happen. Yeah, it's extraordinary. And because he is so lovely, everyone's willing to go along for the ride and, you know, give 100%.
Even though it's all very much, you know, it's shot, put out there, very much edited, with what the finished product looks like, how the visuals, everything all looks, you can tell that behind the scenes, there was a very good dynamic going on, and everything was very much made to be super easygoing and just everything kind of lighthearted throughout the entire time. So very much comes across that way.
Good. I mean, the very fact that he managed to persuade Simon Callow to be in it was, you know, pretty amazing, really. I don't know whether Simon Callow's seen it, but, you know, that just shows you how Scott manages to win most anyone over, really, and that he was like, yes, I'll be in your film.
So how were you able to prepare or do any research for the role of Daphne?
For Daphne, I don't feel as if as much research was needed as for Mary and Bambi, because, as I said, Daphne, she's a mum of my sort of age. I've got a child the same sort of age. So the only thing that's sort of different in a way is the fact that they've inhabited this weird world and there's this awful trauma, which I suppose there's an element of emotion in one of the scenes which hopefully comes through, that you don't need to prepare for that a long time before. You just, on the day it comes through, you know, feeling it, as we say, and in the dialogue, that you will get a bit tearful or but, you know, the other scene is there's a scene very much in the kitchen preparing dinner and just chit-chatting. That doesn't need a huge amount of character prep before, because it is kind of not that dissimilar to me in some ways, whereas Mary's very different, I hope.
So touching on the scene that you said was hopefully coming across as emotional, I just want to see if I get the scene that you're talking about. Was it the one where it was the three of you sitting at the table and then you were in the middle?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I figured. It definitely did come across as being that emotional, because, not even joking, the entire time my eyes kept like bouncing back and forth between the two who were talking, which was Scott and
Alec playing Alan.
Yes, yeah, but my eyes just kept getting drawn to you because you were not saying a single word in that scene, and it was all just facial acting. So my eyes just kept going right to you the entire time.
Oh, good. Yeah, because they were talking about things that there's a revelation in that scene that I don't know, that obviously Alan says. So that's quite shocking to me to hear what, you know, and also what Scott has remembered from his sessions at the psychotherapists. Yeah, so a lot comes out in that. And as I said, the scene did have to get cut down. It was a longer scene, so maybe, you know, it'll be in the DVD extra bits. I don't know.
I'm hopeful because yeah, I would have definitely loved to see like an extra 30 minutes in that. I was not bored at all.
Oh, good.
It definitely needs more. Maybe with Blood and Honey 3 we'll get a longer.
Well, I don't know, bit hard for poor old Daphne.
True. I have a question for that later on.
Go on. Whenever you want.
So, I mean, maybe that has to do with this next one. Were there any unexpected challenges during filming, and how were you able to overcome them?
Well, yes, that. So poor Daphne's demise was, I mean, it wasn't probably as bad as some of them regarding prosthetics. You know, I'm not, at the end of the day, the creatures had to have it on the whole time. Mine was just a scene, but I'd never had quite that amount on. I mean, I've been killed many times and had many sort of loads and loads of blood and goo, but I hadn't had that amount of prosthetics on. So I don't mind sitting there and having it put on. That's not a challenge. The challenge really is just the fact you can't see, so you have to rely on somebody maneuvering you into position. It's not hard, it's a bit different and a bit of a challenge, I guess. So I appreciate how the creatures, the ones who've got to have the whole lot on all the time, must have felt.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably one of my absolute dreams in life to be in a horror movie. So I'm crossing my fingers one day to actually be in one. I ended up saying to Scott the other day, I'm like, you need someone like an extra body to kill in 3. Let me know.
I'll be there. Because also I'd never had a full face, you know, the cast done before. That was new, which I was well up for. It's something different, isn't it?
Yeah.
And again, I think they've improved that. You know, I think in the old days you used to have all of that on for a much longer. Now it sets really quickly, so it's probably only half an hour to 40 minutes the whole thing. So it wasn't too bad, but it was interesting.
I can only imagine.
Different day at the office, you know.
Comparing Blood and Honey to your favorite types of horror films that we mentioned earlier, how would you say that it fits in with the horror genre?
Oh, I think it fits in brilliantly. It's much more of a sort of, well, a campy slasher, I guess. Fun. It's a fun horror as opposed to a serious. But I mean, as we've said and covered, the story this time does go deeper. But at the end of the day, we would hope that the audience will laugh and gasp and scream and be quite, just ride the roller coaster of it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why if people are too critical of it, you think, what were you expecting? It's a fun film that's a horror film, and we want you to be grossed out by at times.
Yeah.
I mean, it has got a huge kill count in it, which sits well with a lot of the films at the moment. So it's, you know, it's definitely not a Midsummer. It's it's going into the Terrifier type of camp, or the first Evil Dead, not the second, you know, not the later ones. Just, a wild ride.
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny that you actually mentioned like comparing it to Terrifier, because that's exactly what Lewis Tigger was saying. He was just like, you know, that was pretty much his selling point to anyone who was watching it, was if you like the Terrifier films, you're gonna like this. And he's not wrong. So were there any particular scenes, moments, or behind the scenes experiences that deeply resonated with you, or that you found particularly memorable?
I think some behind the scenes, I was only there for 2, was I there 3 nights or 2 nights? Mine's really quite condensed. I was right at the end of the film. Everything in the house was shot then. So I haven't got any amazing stories like probably the rave scene. If you're asking what's memorable, for me, yes, I've seen big scenes on screen, obviously, but on a low budget indie, to have that amount of people and do such a big scene with so many sort of supporting artists, but not just supporting artists, just all getting horrendous kills and everything. That's, I feel, very memorable. Most low budget films will keep to small casts and trying to keep everything, you know, manageable and cheaper, but they went all out for that. It's like a big budget scene. And so I think once that scene kicks in, it just goes. And I actually quite liked Daphne's demise, but I really liked Louisa's one with Tigger when he's got his claws going up. That was a good one. And the shower of blood, that was very memorable. And I think Kelly's one in the beginning is pretty grim as well.
Yeah, that got dragged out.
And then, of course, the flaming chainsaw. I mean, for goodness sake, we can't forget that. It was nearly Scott's demise in real life, I reckon. That was practical.
Yeah, that was crazy. So now that the film is complete, how do you reflect on your character's journey and involvement in the film?
I think as far as their involvement, both her and Alan, first of all, they were real characters. You know, Alan and Daphne are the names of A.A. Milne and his wife Daphne, and that was quite important to me. And I asked that they retain that, because she was called something else originally, but that they would be Alan and Daphne, so that, and they obviously in real life had Christopher Robin back in the 30s or whenever it was. And so the importance of him having parents who support him and do believe him is a sort of heart to it, I guess, amongst the mayhem, and their daughter Bunny as well. Yeah, it's the home, it's the heart, and that he feels at least safe going back to. They're very supportive. There's the scene when the car's been trashed and the dad gives him a real hug, and they sort of tell him how much you can sort of see the love that they have as a family, which makes it even more tragic when what happens, because you do know that they really loved him and he loved them, because he's living in a world where most people are sort of ostracizing him, and you know.
Yeah, and Scott has like a really good way of really showcasing that emotion on screen, like through dialogue and then also without dialogue, which is very difficult to do.
Yeah, you do feel for him, which, I mean, that's what you want in your leading character. You want to care about them and care that they, you know, survive or that they come through at the end. And I feel that with Scott's Christopher Robin, you really do care about him and want him to triumph. And then, of course, at the very, very end, you realise something else, don't you? So then that's very emotional, that moment between him and Pooh.
Yeah, I'd like to see almost the aftermath of like the realization being continued on.
Well, I guess in 3, probably that's where they can go with it. I mean, you know, I almost wish I'd loved that Daphne and Alan had realised, because I'd like to have seen what their reactions would have been to have found out that, which, because obviously we never do know that.
No, we don't. So before Daphne's demise, though, was there a favorite line that you said in the film?
Something about, I think, probably just calling Bunny down from the stairs before I wring her neck, because it just all seems so normal. I like dialogue that's the sort of dialogue that, you know, if I've got, you know, we all know we're going to have to at some point say some exposition and sort of explain a bit of the story, but I like dialogue that's real. As an actress, I like just doing normal stuff, so that probably is one of my favourites.
And then were there any choices that Daphne made in the film that you may not have personally like agreed with?
No, I was fine with all of it. I mean, as I said, it was the way it was written. It's kind of obvious, you know, that we've got kitchen scenes, we've got family scenes. There's nothing I wouldn't. The way they were directed and what we did on the day is exactly how I pictured it, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair. We know that there's still the select few people who really don't agree with the vision that Scott and Reese and now Dan are all coming up with within this universe. How have you been handling the criticism on the film, both being constructive and negative?
To be honest, I don't. If I see it's negative, I just don't bother reading it. I mean, I think it's harder for them because yes, we're in it and I care very much, but it must be a lot worse for them because it is their baby and it feels like a personal attack on you. So if somebody says your acting is terrible, blah, 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 then you're going to take it very personally. But if they're talking about the film as the whole, yes, we all care hugely, but for reasons Scott, that's even worse.
Yeah.
But luckily, most of what I've read has been good. And also because I've been away for the whole time that it came out, I've been trying to catch up, and I probably have not read as much as I would have done had I been with internet the whole time, because I didn't have it. So yeah, I choose not to really look at the negative too much. I think lots of the negative seems to come from people who haven't even watched it, because they watched maybe, or they heard about the first one. They're saying, oh, why do people make another one, and blah, blah, blah. But they haven't watched the second one. So if you've watched it and you've got something negative, I respect what you say, and I don't mind hearing a proper critique. But I can't be doing with people who slag something off and they haven't actually even watched it. It just seems a bit pointless, really. It's like, get a life.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously everyone has their preferences, and you know, you see a trailer and it's like, maybe not for me. But then if you hear a lot of good things, maybe it's like, okay, well, maybe I'll check it out. Like, there's still films that I've never seen, and honestly probably will never see, just because the subject matter is not of any interest to me.
I agree. There are genres or the types of films that you just think, no, there's only so many hours in the day, and I'll go to the ones that I want.
I mean, you can appreciate a film, and at the end of the day, good film or bad film, there is still a level of appreciation for what it is as a whole, because of how much passion and work went into it.
Yeah, and the craftsmanship, you know, a lot of talented people will have put their all into all of the films at the end of the day. And thank God that there are so many different types of genres and types of films, because none of us, we're all different. And luckily there's something for everyone. And I think independent film, especially, just the very fact that anybody even manages against all the odds to get an independent film made, and then if they get distribution, that's a huge thing.
So now that the world has been informed about the future release of the POOHNIVERSE, Monsters Assemble, if you could play any character within the Twisted Childhood universe, aside from your next character we will be talking about, who would be your ultimate choice, be it someone already in the public domain or someone you wish was in the public domain?
Well, I've always liked a sort of a really evil Queenie type. So I suppose if they do a Sleeping Beauty, then a Maleficent-y type of character. Yeah, bad witches I like.
If you end up being Maleficent and in some shape, way, or form, you will immediately be my favorite.
Because
that is my favorite Disney villain.
Angelina Jolie.
Exactly. So, like mentioned, you are going to appear next in Bambi the Reckoning within the shared universe. How does your character of Mary differ from that of Daphne?
Oh, well, she's completely different. So she's a lot older. So we sort of managed to quite easily, actually, make me look very, very old and decrepit. Bit of white powder in the hair, braided up, and then I just pulled it all off my face. So a few lines that are added. Yeah, she's the grandma, and Mary has onset dementia. So she's with it a little bit at times, but a lot of the time she's in a world of her own. But within that world, there's some sort of knowingness about or impending doom regarding Bambi. So she sort of foresees things a little. And that's not in some sort of weird way. It's just like you do wonder if she knew more than back when she was lucid. Roxanne, who played Zana, said she used to find me more creepy than... Because I do sort of like wander off in my dressing gown in a strange, creepy old lady way into the darkness. Looking in the mirror was certainly very frightening anyway.
So, how was it working with a creature that was entirely CGI versus the practical effects of Winnie?
Obviously, yeah, very different, because we haven't got anything. We've got a green screen and occasionally a stick with a sort of deer head on it, a
Mhm.
green deer head. I mean, it's not the first time I've done that, so I was kind of, yeah, I'm used to it, but you are definitely acting rather than reacting.
So a couple months ago, I ended up speaking with Joseph Greenwood, who's also in the film, and we were talking about his role as Harrison. He ended up mentioning that the film is more grounded in reality and that you didn't really have to suspend your belief too much. Would you agree with that statement? And are you able to expand on that in your view?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, number one, you've only got Bambi.
Mhm.
You haven't got lots of, and although we know Bambi is a childhood story, it is still a deer that we can recognize as a deer. I mean, we haven't seen it yet. I mean, I don't know how grotesque Bambi will be, but we'll still recognize Bambi as a deer. So there is that grounding in reality, and it's less campy than Winnie, and that's not, I'm not saying that in a negative way.
Mhm.
I think that's what makes Winnie fun and everything. Bambi will be less fun, more drama, horror.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fun.
I think.
I'm all for the camp, and I am all for the other side of the coin where it's just darker and just go all out and just do. So I like that we're gonna have multiple kind of tones within the shared universe.
Yes, definitely.
So do you have any other projects, maybe something else within this universe that are coming up in the near future that you're excited for and are able to share?
Well, we don't know 100% who will be in the POOHNIVERSE, in the big, one, if next, whenever it's done. But if one of my characters was in it, it would be more likely to be the one that survives.
Okay.
And I'm not saying any more than that.
Okay, sounds good. What would you hope that audiences take away from Blood and Honey 2?
I just hope that they have a fun night and talk about probably the kills. I mean, at the end of the day, we've all been to see umpteen horror films, if you're a horror fan, and you either come out saying, that was rubbish, I wasn't frightened at all, or you come up and going, oh my God, that was so fun when blah, blah. And that's what I would hope, is that people come out with a smile on their face, just talking about how gross some of it is, and that they genuinely had a good time. I mean, my kids both came to see the premiere, and they both are horror mad, and they genuinely loved it, and they would not have said that if they didn't. They did say it was really good, we loved it. So not coming from above, they could be biased, or they normally would say the other way. They're usually super critical, but actually they really loved it. And the music again is really good. Andrew Scott Bell's done an amazing job, and I always think that the sound, people sort of underestimate how much of a difference the sound, if you've got good sound and a good score, it'll elevate the film. Yeah.
At first viewing, when I first left, I was kind of really thinking about, well, some of the scares could have been scarier. And then after sitting with it for a while, I think it was actually just perfect, because it almost took the original 1978 Halloween approach, where there wasn't those big snares and loud sounds or anything like that. And it was very much subtle music that crept in. And, there was like that one scene when Dr. Loomis turns around and there's the policeman right there, and all it does is just that little chime. It was very much that throughout the entire film. And I have now a even better appreciation for the film with just the callbacks to just classic horror.
Yeah, it is. It kind of takes me back to the sort of 80s horror.
Yeah, it's really well done. So on the flip side of things, what are you hoping the audiences will take away from Bambi?
Bambi, I hope that they're less likely to be laughing throughout Bambi. So I just hope that they appreciate that it is a sort of dark drama horror. so that they'll come out surprised. Hopefully, I mean, none of us, we've only seen what you've seen with the CGI little clip, the teaser clip. So it's very hard for me as well to imagine just what Bambi is going to look like.
Yeah.
Whereas with Winnie, we all knew what you would see. So in a way, I'm going to be as surprised as everyone else. And that's a good thing, hopefully.
Yeah, I think so. It gives you that extra bit of anticipation for the finished product.
Yeah, and Roxanne is amazing. The leading actress, she's excellent, really good. And again, another very strong family dynamic. The film is at its core a family, and I'm rooting for them by the end, and a deer. See, that's the flip, isn't it? Because I was just thinking just then that with all the others, the creatures, well, I don't know actually, with now you know the story of why the creatures in Pooh are who and what they are. I think you do have more empathy for them, even though they are killing machines. And certainly with our deer, in a way you'll be rooting for it as well. Yeah,
just knowing the backstory of Bambi as a whole already. Yeah. I mean, there was this very, normally I don't notice Easter eggs, and I'll have to go on to like YouTube videos where they call everything out, but I noticed this one in Blood and Honey 2 when Scott's on the computer looking up on Milne Web. Notice that, but I can't remember what he was looking up. I think it was figuring out like all the missing children back in the day. There was a little mention of like, I think it was a zombie virus in deers. I was like, all right, Bambi's a zombie, got it.
Well, yeah, there's certainly virus, the sort of whole virusy thing comes. There's a lot of little things that will be meant or just like given I certainly from, I don't know how much I'm allowed to give away really. But Mary has a few little theme tunes that run through her head and that she hums that will reference Pooh for certain. And there are books that you can see in Pooh. I can't remember where it is, but there's books on the shelves that you'll see Bambi and Pinocchio are all written down, and the same in Bambi. Yeah, there's quite a few. I think it'll certainly by the time they're all out, eager beaver fans will be looking for the clues between, and some of them are actually will be spoken about. You know, somebody has to go back to Ashdown for something. So the villages are sort of close to each other.
Okay. That's a fun little tidbit. Okay. So what 3 words would you use to describe Winnie the Pooh?
Fun, gross, and camp.
Okay. And then on the flip side, the 3 words to describe Bambi.
Dark, serious, chilling.
Ooh, okay. I like that one. That's really good. Okay.
Yeah, they're very different. Well, I hope they will be.
Well, thank you so very much for sitting down and chatting about everything. Everyone is able to catch Nikki as Daphne in Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2, out now in select theaters and on physical media later this year, along with being Mary in Bambi the Reckoning, which is, I think, coming out later this year. I'm assuming probably around fall.
Yeah, we haven't had a release date yet, so I don't know, but I'm sure it will be by the end of the year. I think that's the plan. It all depends on the CGI, to be honest.
Yeah.
You can't hurry. You know, Dan's a whiz at editing, but that doesn't mean to say that, you know, the CGI takes as long as it takes.
Exactly. So where is everyone able to follow you and stay up to date on all these projects and future projects to come?
Well, I am on Instagram, NK_Wright, and I'm on Twitter, or X as it's now known as, _NK Wright. So the underscore's there, but they're flipped. I'll just put in Nicola Wright and I'm sure I'll pop up and I will say hello to anybody who follows me.
Sounds good. Well, thank you again for sitting down, taking time out of your day and your busy schedule and talking about everything. And
absolute pleasure. Anytime.
Awesome. Well, have a good rest of your night. Get lots of rest.
I will. Bedtime now. It's about, what is it now? 20 to 1 in the morning.
Oh, my Lent. Okay. Yeah. definitely, yes, please sleep. I really appreciated you scheduling at this time. So,
My pleasure.
all right,
Alrighty.
have a wonderful night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So hopefully you enjoyed this video. I had such a blast chatting with Nikki about her role in Blood and Honey, her role coming up in Bambi the Reckoning. That sounds super exciting. I'm very much looking forward to that. And possibly seeing her in other roles as well in this universe. So that's fun to know. Again, I just want to say thank you so much to Nikki for sitting down, chatting with me, and talking about the behind the scenes and the fun things that have happened on set, along with after the fact the film has come out, and all of the positive responses that this film greatly deserves. If you enjoyed this video, make sure that you give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you know when I post brand new videos, because again, if you don't, how else are you gonna know? You won't, so do it. I shall see everybody on the next video, which will be on Thursday. But until then, goodbye friendships.